guys, Fishing Indiana. I'm just going to go over some tactics that's been working pretty good for me and some summer tactics that I'm going to be trying out that I've learned the past month or so. And I'm going to go over a couple things like what I was using at my trip because I told you guys that I was using but I wasn't real clear, so I'm going to show it to you. And some other things that I'm going to recommend. So I'll get back to you guys in a second. Hey guys, we're back. I'm going to go over the tactics that I was talking about and how to use them and some other stuff like when I'm going to get out again. So just stay tuned. First thing I'm going to start with is this new swimming presentation that I've discovered recently, and it's a Bitsy jig. This is just a green 3/8 ounce Bitsy jig, and then I'm using a Gary Yamamoto paddle tail worm right there. I believe it's 5 inches. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this paddle tail worm, and you see right there where it's plastic and it's a square. I'm cutting it right at the end of that square, and then I'm threading it up on my Bitsy jig, just like that. And I find you can thread it both ways. You can thread it upside down or like that. It gets just much action. But the coolest thing about this jig is you just throw it out there and then you reel it, and the whole jig, not just the back, swims. The whole jig goes like that and shakes. It's really neat looking. So I'm going to move on to the next presentation. I'm going to start off with the bass, and I'll go to panfish more towards the end. And I think this is the most underused. I mean, I think it's out there, but if not, it needs to be used a lot more often. This is the Zoom trick worm. This is just white. That's just my color that I like to use. And you Texas rig this white worm. Okay. Let me Texas rig it here for you guys. This worm's been used a few times, so it's not gonna look too great. Alright. Okay, we're Texas rigged. This is a size 2 Gamakatsu wide gap hook. So we're Texas rigged, okay? And then you throw this weightless, alright? And you jerk it a lot, like on the top with your rod tip. You want to get a lot of action with your rod tip. And this thing just goes crazy in the water. It like swims across the top like a snake. And I've just had bass explode on it. I mean, you could throw it on weeds too. I just love throwing it. It's one of my favorite things. The next thing I'm going to go over here is a flick shake. One-aught flick shake. I believe these are Gamakatsu hooks, but right there's your flick shake. There's your crawl poppy, okay? And you take that, there's that little hole right there. I don't know if you can see that. And you take your jig head and you thread it up into that hole. Okay, let me get it threaded up in there for you guys. And then you use your finger, push that little circle through your little tie on right there, your shank, and then you take the front of that hook and you stick it in the head of that crawl, just like that, okay? So now you got this, okay? And the most important thing about this is that you rig it and then you tie it on, because otherwise you're going to be ripping your crawl and it's impossible. So you got this now, and when you throw this, it's going to sink like this down, and then you're going to jerk it and it's going to rise and flutter back down. And I was catching a lot of fish on my trip doing that. I was having 13. I picked up a few 13s on it, but nothing too big. Okay, the next tactic I'm going to go over is a swim jigging presentation, but this is one I learned on YouTube. I forgot who showed me. If you're someone that does this and put on your YouTube channel, then just write a comment below so I know it might have been you. But I take this Bitsy jig, and you can use any jig. This is just because that Bitsy jig is pretty much the only thing I use, because it's small and works good in the river. This is 1/8 ounce, black and blue, and you just take your willow blade, okay? There's your willow blade, there's your Bitsy jig, and you take a little chunk of plastic, there's your plastic, and you slide it down so that that willow blade is like that, parallel, okay? And then you reel it, and it's like a spinnerbait, but you got that brush guard, which helps you out a lot, and it looks more like a tail swimming than a spinnerbait where all you do is see that flash in that skirt. So I like this presentation quite a bit. Alright, my next one is this is what I want to show you guys we were killing them on. I told you what I was catching them on in the video, with the slideshow at Fox Road, but this is what we were catching them on, this little yum crawl, I don't know what it's called, and then the black and blue bitsy jig, and we were just bouncing it, and picking it up, and then set it back down, and then reeling it, and then picking it up, setting it back down, and we were catching a lot of fish on that. That's what my grandpa caught that 4-pounder on, was one of these. Okay, and then this is my last one. I haven't caught a lot of fish on this, but I find it to be pretty effective. Like, I've caught fish when I use it a lot, but I don't use this all the time. What you're going to do is you're going to take your beaver, okay? And then you're going to cut off your two these, I don't know what these are, but you're going to cut them off. And you're going to be left with this, and I cut this flat, like that. I don't know, just for my sake, I liked it like that. And then you're going to almost Texas rig it. You're going to put it through the nose. This is all sideways, though, like this. It's all sideways. And you're going to pull it through, and then flip your hook over. Thread it up on that shank. And then you're going to put it almost all halfway through right there. And I slit this, so you can put that hook through there like that. Okay, see, that's halfway through. You can see that hook. And then this is also weightless. And you're going to jerk this, and it almost mimics like a soft jerk bait or a fluke, and it's just going to swim and dart back and forth real fast. Oh, I like it. It works pretty nice for me, so I also find it can imitate a goby pretty well. So here's my next technique. This is panfish I'm moving on to. This is your right on pair, okay? And then you got your hook. Right there, it's a small hook. I like using smaller hooks for crappie and bluegill. You're going to nose hook whatever you put on that hook. I usually use a Beesmaw for a minnow, crappie minnow. And then you're going to put it about 3 foot behind this bobber with no weight, and you're just going to pop this bobber. And I've had crappie come up, hit the bobber, and then go down and take the minnow. Or I've had bass just come out of nowhere and eat the bobber and swim around with it in its mouth for a while before it finally lets go, and then it'll take the minnow. But, I mean, it's a pretty neat rig. I've been catching almost all my fish on it this year. But, I'll get back to you guys on this next one here. This is just a little hair jig. Right here. You got your hair jig. Okay. See it. 32nd ounce hair jig. With your split tail grub. It's this chartreuse. And then I cut off the top of this body of this, and then you slip it on the back of that hook like this. You want to always make sure that your tail's facing, like, you want it to be set up like this, okay? And then what happens there is that when this gets wet, all this fur comes down onto this tail right here, and then when you reel it, this swims and makes the fur look like a tail, and it wags back and forth. It mimics a minnow quite well, so I like it a lot. And then this is my last one, last but not least. It's just a really long shank hook. As you can see there, it's a pretty long shank. It goes all the way back to my tube right there, and then a really small Y on that hook. And then you thread a tube up on there like that, okay? Then you tie about 1 foot to 1.5 foot of line to it, and then tie a swivel. I got my little swivel right there. And then you jerk it, and it swims, this tube swims behind it. And I've caught probably 30 to 50 crappie out of the river last year on it, and a couple nice bass. But you can't cast real far, but you don't really need to in the river. The river's not wide. You guys have seen the river, it's pretty small. So you guys should try some of those out, and in the box below, if you guys have any more comments or techniques that you think I'd like to try, then if it's real long, then just personal message me and I'll add you as a friend on Facebook or something. We could talk about it, or we'll see. So I'll probably get back to you guys Saturday. Gonna get out, probably gonna get some fish, bass on video. Me and Blake want to hit the river, but if it's still high, we're gonna have to go to a pond, and I might get to a pond before then. But stay tuned. Back to you guys next time. This is Fishing Indiana.